These slightly cooler conditions are going to last.
WBRC Fox 6 News. First Alert Weather Extra starts now.
And a little weather extra surprise for parts of the area today. Some showers in the White Plains community there. Nathan Harper, one of our First Alert weather watchers, sharing some videos. So we've got the proof there, Lauren. Glad to have you back with us again here for Weather Extra this evening. And looks like a few more of those isolated pop-up showers.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where you have to squint at the radar to see where the pop-up shower is.
Yeah.
And you almost had to squint a little bit at that video. It's like, am I seeing rain? Yeah, you are seeing rain.
A couple of showers, Debbie, that system is moving away, but the backside of the circulation there, kicking off a couple of those showers across East Alabama. So that possibility there, but what we're seeing, that's going to dissipate this evening. Let's go to the radar here and just show you, first off, a look out the window. And this is what a lot of us are seeing. Yeah, and Lauren, 88 degrees there at Montevallo. We've had some areas in the mid-80s over in West Alabama, so already seeing some improvements in those temperatures out there. I mean, it's hot, but not as bad as last week. I mean, you can certainly tell it's improved just a little bit, but it's toasty in East Alabama, where we have 91 right now at Gadsden, and these hotter conditions is kicking off these showers and thunderstorms. Look at that little lightning with the one there around Rockford, and this storm that tracked close to Auburn. Look at all the lightning with that one. The National Weather Service actually issuing a strong storm advisory there for the Auburn area as that storm tracks south. But for us right now, really the only downpour that we're seeing, I'm zooming in over Coosa County. Good waters to the north. Sylacauga is back to the north direction there. This is not far from Kellington there, a little downpour that is moving south. This is not moving to the north direction. Again, this is all to the west of the center of tropical depression Debbie. Now it is a tropical depression and expected to continue that track towards the north over the next several days. There is another wave that we're going to be talking about that's popped up out over the Atlantic, and looks like a chance that could develop. That's going to be another system that we're talking about. But as far as Debbie goes, still seeing that greatest chance for flooding. That's going to continue through the mid-Atlantic region, but just in case you are traveling here next couple of days, certainly looks like some impacts there around D.C. and places to the north with some of that heavier rainfall. I want to back this view out and go to the Muggy meter and just show you next big thing for us is going to be some of that drier air for the weekend. That's going to drop in there Sunday morning with the low humidity, more of a crisp start to the day. You'll really notice it across the northern part of the area. We'll have those cooler mornings, and again, I mentioned that tropical system that we'll check out coming up in First Alert weather. As far as the temperatures next week, we will heat up again. It's still summertime, so yeah, be ready for those mid-90s to come back. The muggy air, it will be quite toasty out there towards the middle of next week, but we may actually see some scattered showers and storms next week coming back as well, and we'll show you more on that in the 7-day forecast. But right now, we're going to continue with the story that we brought you earlier in the week. Shinty Rodriguez was talking about the different surface temperatures around the area, which is important with winter weather forecasting, all kinds of variables, and one of the key terms with that is albedo, and Lauren is here to explain.
Oh, I love talking about albedo, Wes, because it has such an impact on us. And you at home are like, now, if she doesn't explain what this is, I'm going to change the channel, because what in the world is albedo? Albedo is the amount of reflectivity an object has. And we can think about albedo just in the clothes that we wear. Think about when it's the summertime, people always say, hey, if you got to be outside, wear light colored clothing, because black clothing, that darker clothing, is more prone to absorbing heat. So the darker an object is, the more heat it can absorb, versus the lighter an object is, the more light it can reflect. So we can use this by looking at the urban heat island. This can actually give us a good idea of how this operates. So we talk about how in cities we can see the possibility of temperatures often running a lot warmer than they do in the surrounding rural areas. So let's say you've got temperatures in the 80s out in the rural areas where you have more grass and you've got more land, versus if you have an urban area, think about what the spread is. It's concrete, it's pavement, it's those darker surfaces that can absorb more heat. And so when you have that, you can have a situation where cities can sometimes get warmer, like sometimes Birmingham can get warmer than the surrounding rural areas because we have so much concrete and pavement. And you can also get this when it comes to snow, which we don't really know much about about that here. But when you do get snow, you have widespread snow somewhere. Sometimes you have to put on sunglasses when you're looking at snow if it's really bright outside, because the sun reflects directly off of the snow because it's so white. I step outside, you almost have to put on your sunglasses when you look at me because I'm so white, I just immediately reflect all of the sunlight. So albedo is all about the amount of reflectivity an object has. So the pavement is going to be, that dark asphalt outside is going to absorb heat much more efficiently than, say, a little bed of snow would. But we've been talking about these high temperatures, not just in Birmingham, around the area. They're also bringing higher electricity bills for many Americans this summer. According to a research poll from AP and Nork Center for Public Affairs, nearly 70% of Americans saw an impact on their bills last year, and about 7 in 10 Americans say they have been affected in some way within the past 5 years, making it one of the most common weather events in the country. But reports of extreme heat effects were most common in the western and southern U.S. Can't confirm that. Well, Debbie has weakened into a depression this evening, but continues to crawl up the East Coast, leaving heavy rainfall, dangerous flooding, and even tornadoes in its wake. Fox News multimedia reporter Chelsea Torres has the latest from North Carolina.
North Carolina residents waking up to tornado warnings Thursday as Tropical Storm Debbie has made a second landfall. In Wilson County, a tornado touched down, destroying a 2-story home, forcing it to collapse on itself. More homes ripped apart in other parts of North Carolina as tornadoes came through. Wind whipping up waves on Surfside Beach in South Carolina as some people were out walking in the storm. Debbie is expected to keep moving inland, bringing with it heavy rain. Flooding could be a problem across parts of South Carolina and North Carolina. Residents say you have to be resilient.
We have no control. We just take it and just enjoy it, the good and the bad.
Take a look at this car caught up in brown flood water in North Carolina. From the sky, the road looks like a river. A dangerous situation is unfolding in Georgia, where at least 4 dams were breached northwest of Savannah in Bullock County. Tropical Storm Debbie dumped about a foot of rain in this area.
All the Bullock County Sheriff's deputies have said that they've never seen anything like this, and we haven't seen anything like this before. And I've lived here for 33 years.
As Debbie continues to move, portions of Virginia bracing for heavy rainfall as well. Officials giving away free sandbags to help people protect their homes.
I'm just trying to be cautious about getting some sand to prevent flooding in my cellar.
Forecasters say residents as far north as Vermont could get several inches of rain this weekend. In Raleigh, North Carolina, I'm Chelsea Torres, Fox News.
Well, let's look at how much rain we have gotten so far from Debbie. Now, I say we here. We ain't gotten much, but you can really see where those higher rainfall totals have been concentrated through the Florida Peninsula up into southeast Georgia and the Carolinas, where some of the highest rainfall totals have been along the Florida Gulf Coast. This is looking at rainfall totals over the past 5 days since we really saw Debbie develop. So you can see right along the Florida coast, just south of Tampa, it looks like over a foot of rain has fallen. We're talking 16 inches of rain estimated in North Florida. This is getting near Lake City, about 15 inches of rain, 15 to 16 inches of rain near Savannah and Charleston, and then over a foot of rain in Wilmington. Well, coming up next on First Alert Weather Extra, we take a check on some things to see in the night sky and how to protect your lawns and gardens. We'll be right back.
All right. You can come on up a little bit. Okay. Too far? Where you want to? Right there? All right, good.
Okay.
Welcome back to Weather Extra. Meteorologist Lauren Lenahan. We did want to give you a first alert for some nice things to see beyond the atmosphere this weekend, like the Perseid meteor shower. It's one of the better meteor showers, and it actually going to peak on Sunday and Monday. So the best time to watch it is going to be from midnight to dawn. And you can see meteors in all parts of the sky. You don't necessarily need to look in one direction. But this meteor shower is normally a little bit more prolific than others. You can see up to 75 shooting stars possible per hour. And the best part is we're actually going to have clear skies because we have a first alert for that cool front headed our way this weekend, bringing in some drier air and lower humidity. We'll look ahead beyond the 7-day coming up in a bit. Wes.
All right, if you see a couple of those, you have to make a wish, right? Yeah, you've got to make a wish. Listen, I'm joined right now by Roger House, Alabama Professional Services. So glad to have you here. And I noticed on a Facebook group from one of my older neighborhoods, they were mentioning, hey, we got some armyworm problems. And I know I had a problem at one point, and I got to following up. It looks like it's becoming more widespread around the Birmingham area right now.
It's due to all the dry weather we're having and all like that. You have dry weather, you're going to have armyworms come out and start destroying your grass and crops. The best thing to do is keep it moist. If you keep the grass moist and all like that, they won't attack it as bad. Putting down an insecticide early in the morning, late in the afternoon, that will also deter them. It will also kill the adults, but you will need to do that about every 6 weeks to keep them away from there.
Well, if you've never had that issue, I mean, the house I moved into, the type of lawn that we had the Bermuda.
Yes.
And it is real tall grass, yes. and it's not as thick. And I just noticed it just all started turning brown one day, and I called the service provider, and they said, hey, you got an armyworm problem, but they can destroy a lawn.
Correct. They can destroy a lawn overnight. Like I said, keeping it healthy, keeping it thick, and keeping it moist is your number one priority to keeping the armyworms away. In the springtime, go ahead and do aeration on your lawn and fertilize it. That will also help cut out some of the thatch where they lay the eggs and stuff like that.
Well, we were showing some pictures. That first picture was the armyworm. Now this one is the oakworm, and I've seen some reports of that too. There's a big difference there, right?
Yes, there's a big difference. They usually attack trees and have little bag worms, that I call them, and all like that, put bags up in trees and stuff like that. So, I mean, to treat them with insecticide also, something called bufferin will kill them too.
Well, what's some signs, early signs? I know you mentioned if it's very dry, you need to watch out for that, but if you start noticing some things in your lawn.
Brown patches. If you start noticing brown patches, go out there with a gallon of water and a little soap, pour on the brown patch. See if there's any armyworms come up to the top. They will come to the top because they don't like the soap. Dawn dishwashing, Joy, they don't like lemon scent Joy for some reason. But if you use one of them too, it will bring them to the top and you can see what's going on.
Very, very interesting. And you were talking earlier, this is an issue not just for our lawns, but those, cutting hay. I've seen some reports out of North Alabama. It's been a big problem.
Yes, there's a guy up there that lost thousands of dollars from his hay field. Some of his hay he's having to cut early so they don't attack it. So.
Well, a lot of folks on Facebook, when I posted about this, says, well, your grass will come back, but this, if you've been trying to keep your lawn healthy all summer and treat it and everything, this can change things overnight.
Correct, it can, sure can. It can change it, and if they eat down to the nub of the grass, it won't come back.
Very, very interesting. Well, listen, how can folks reach out to you guys for
assistance? Look us up online, alabamaprofessional.com, and we'll be glad to come out and look at it and see what they got going on.
All right, well, I'll be on the lookout for the brown patches. Hopefully your lawn survives. And another thing, too, while we're on this topic just quickly, when we have the lack of rainfall, armadillos like to come out and dig around.
Also, they're looking for grubs, so. Yes.
Yeah, so got to watch out for that as well. So a lot late summer, a lot of the critters like to come out this time of the year. So we'll be checking back in with you. Appreciate you coming back and joining us today. And
Thank you.
Look forward to having you back on Weather Extra here. Coming up, we're going to be talking about the long-range forecast, if we'll see any wet weather in that picture, and another tropical system that we're tracking. That's next on Weather Extra. ground. All right, a live look from Gulf Shores, Alabama. 91 degrees right now, and there are a couple of towering cumulus clouds offshore there. What a beautiful evening there along the coast, and the winds out of the north there. No tropical issues. I know some folks may be heading down the big offshore tournament happening this weekend, and looks like the weather conditions, at least right now, all the rain from Tropical Depression Debbie staying well north. That's going to be moving right along the mid-Atlantic region and tracking into New England. But if you have a trip plan, maybe catching a flight for the weekend and going into this vicinity, there's going to be some rain producers, and we've seen a couple tornado warnings out of this system again today across North Carolina. But looking at the other system that I was telling you about, there's another tropical wave. It's way out in the Atlantic, and that system is moving to the west direction and expected to develop. There's a medium chance that it could become better organized, and you look at this and say, hey, that thing's moving right in the direction of the Gulf of Mexico. But some of the long-range data suggests that this one may want to turn to the north. So we'll wait and see if that happens, but do check in for updates. But that possibility is certainly there based on some of the long-range data. But again, this weekend, no concerns with that particular system. But flying way back into the state of Alabama, a couple of showers moving south, tracking some rain around Alexander City, a couple of showers. But West Alabama, we're dry. Birmingham area, north to Coleman, not seeing rainfall, and things will settle down overnight tonight. We'll see those overnight lows back in the 70s for tonight, and as far as our Friday afternoon, we'll see those afternoon high temperatures back into the 90s later in the day. Still summertime, so we're going to have those kind of afternoon temperatures, but the evenings, early mornings, there will be a nice little improvement as we head into the weekend. That muggy meter takes a big dive, so looking at the overnight lows, we'll see some low 60s for areas to the north, even some 60s to the south there, so early Sunday morning especially. And as Lauren was noting, if you want to do some sky watching there Sunday night with that meteor shower, should be perfect weather for that with that low humidity, not as hazy. And next week, maybe some scattered storms by Wednesday and Thursday. But notice those mid-90s will come back. We're going to be talking about some more very hot afternoons as we go beyond the 7-day forecast. Meteorologist Lauren Linehan, I see above average, Lauren.
Yeah.
It will come back.
It will.
Yeah.
That's why we're like, hey, don't get too excited about the cold front this weekend. It will make it feel better outside because it's not going to be as muggy, but I think we could do a little bit better than 60s, don't you? Maybe we will eventually. We still got September, October. maybe November and December around the corner. But as far as our 8 to 14 day temperature outlook, this is looking at August 14th through 18th. So getting into the meat of the middle of the month, looking at above average temperatures, not just for us here in central Alabama, but a good portion of the U.S. So for us here in central Alabama, that means we could potentially see high temperatures, possibly in the mid 90s, and morning lows possibly in the mid 70s. But what about that rainfall outlook? Because we've been seeing drought conditions whittling away across central Alabama. It does look like 8 to 14 days from now, this is looking at August 14th through 18th, we may have drier than average conditions. So below average conditions for much of the state. Where you see it just in gray, that would be near average with a better chance of rain, unfortunately, in those places that have been waterlogged by Debbie. So we did have an update actually from the National Hurricane Center. This is from NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. And back in May, they initially went with an above average forecast, and they actually just released an update on that today. And that update still calls for an above average forecast. So we are approaching the peak of hurricane season. And one of the reasons that they are calling for this above average forecast still is that Saharan dust that kept things kind of quiet in late July after Beryl. Well, that's fading away. But Colorado State, who also has meteorologists who do research on tropical weather, they have also updated their hurricane outlook. Meteorologist Matt Daniel has more.
In July, they forecast 25 named storms. They backed off that number just a little bit to 23, but it's still going to be a very active season according to their forecast. And they're still holding steady with 12 hurricanes and 6 of those becoming major hurricanes, which, by the way, is a Category 3 or greater. They're also starting to issue 2-week outlooks regarding what they're seeing based off long-range models. And so they're still thinking within the next 2 weeks, it is going to be a very active parts of the Atlantic. So this is between now and August 19th. They're predicting 85% chance of above normal activity in the tropical regions of the Atlantic. 14% chance of it just being near normal and only 1% chance of it being below normal. They're thinking the environment will be more conducive. The temperatures with the sea surface temperatures are well above average, and everything is lining up to become an active season. And it makes sense because based off climatology, it's normally pretty quiet in June and July, but this is where we're at. And notice it's going to really ramp up typically when it comes to Atlantic hurricanes. When it comes to September, mid-September is when we see the peak of the season, and really slows down by the time we go into November. So here's another outlook. This is from the Climate Prediction Center, and they also issue outlooks in the long range. So the National Hurricane Center will give you a 7-day outlook. This is going to be showing up for August 14th through the 20th. So they're highlighting a little bit of a low chance to see something possibly develop in the Western Caribbean and the Western Gulf of Mexico. And then they're also looking at the main area of the Atlantic, including the Lesser Antilles and maybe just north of Puerto Rico, Hispaniola, and maybe towards the Bahamas, for the possibility of some tropical development. And in orange is a medium chance. So they're looking at this area as somewhere to watch. And it doesn't tell us if it's going to hit the U.S. There could be something that forms and then stays away. So we'll just have to watch this over the next couple of weeks. And they've also issued an extended outlook that's experimental. So this is just a guidance. This doesn't give us any specific information. But once again, we're going to be looking at the main region of development in the central Atlantic going into our populated areas such as Hispaniola, Cuba, the Bahamas, and of course the southeast U.S. But they're looking at a medium chance of something developing in the middle of the Atlantic between August 21st and 27th. So it looks to be pretty active. It's normal for the activity to start to really ramp up afterwards, going into late August and September. So we're going to be here on your side watching the tropics, and we'll be tracking it. If anything develops, of course, we will let you know, not only here on TV, but also through the WBRC First Alert Weather app.
They Well, even though we had a couple isolated showers today, still mainly dry through this weekend.
But hey, I'm looking forward to the lower humidity, Wes. I don't know about you.
Yeah, some nice mornings coming up, and we'll tell you more about it tonight. Lots of updates tonight, first at 9. Yeah.